Hey everybody, Dr. Rob Silverman here. It's Monday. How are you? Hope everybody had a great weekend. Excited to be here as always. We've got a great topic today. We're going to talk about artificial sweeteners, and I'm not a big proponent of them, as you all probably know. We're going to talk about artificial sweeteners and their effect on your body, your health, and most predominantly whether they cause weight gain or not. So many people have asked me that, with the quarantine and the proverbial quarantine 15. Many people have asked me, do you use artificial sweeteners? They all know that, I'm not a big sugar proponent. Many people have also said, what sweeteners would you do in supplements? We're going to cover all that today. So I got a big shout out. Jennifer, how are you? I'm here. I'm going to hit you with a like. I am here. I'm ready to go. We're going to talk about, so everybody knows, once again, artificial sweeteners and their effect on your gut microbiota, but more so than that, really ultimately weight gain. And believe it or not, there's been a change in the literature since we first started to talk about artificial sweeteners. So let's delve right in. Metabolic effects of what we call non-nutrient sweeteners, NNS. So the consumption of these non-nutrient sweeteners increase the risk to develop, this is as far as 2015, obesity, metabolic syndrome. Remember, metabolic syndrome is a 3 out of 5 criteria. We talk about metabolic syndrome as being sort of like a pre-diabetes. And of course, type 2 diabetes. So in this study in 2015, it had an increase in those three parameters. Interesting, the continuation of that idea was the metabolic effects of these non-nutrient sweeteners. They interfere with what we call learned responses that contribute to control glucose and energy homeostasis. So it wasn't looking like they do a lot of positives here. What's most interesting, and one of the big takeaways, is that your brain, as we used to think, did not know the difference between sugar and an artificial sweetener. There were a lot of releases of insulin in these artificial sweeteners because the brain signaled sugar and sweetness. But one of the big takeaways in this study was these non-nutrient sweeteners interfered with the gut microbiota and introduced something called glucose intolerance. They also, as I want to piggyback on what I said earlier, interact with sweet taste receptors expressed throughout the digestive system that typically play a role in glucose absorption and actually trigger that insulin secretion. So when we talk about sugar and artificially sweetened beverages, we also want to look at the risks of dementia and stroke. So our takeaway in Stroke magazine in April of 2017 was very specific in that artificial sweeteners have shown to cause glucose intolerance in mice by altering the gut microbiota and are associated with dysbiosis and glucose intolerance in humans. So let's take a look at that. Altering the gut microbiota. Remember, our microbiota, what we really want is more good than bad bacteria. The idea of dysbiosis is in the leveling of good and bad bacteria. As you've heard me say before, 85% of your gut should have good bacteria versus 15% what we call bad bacteria. Unsettling the neighborhood, if you will, what I like to, damaging the garden of your gut, your microbiota, leads you down a path of not having the diversity and the quality of the bacteria that you like. Interesting that it leads to glucose intolerance. So if everybody remembers when I've talked about my Dr. Rob's gut matrix, we talked about having damage to the gut or a leaky gut, the gut not being in its what we call pristine condition. When it's not in that pristine condition, we've seen an increase in prediabetes, diabetes, blood sugar dysregulation, and obesity. So the gut is really the epicenter of your health. And one of the reasons it's the epicenter of your health isn't just because 80% of your immune cells are in your gut. It's also because it's the key to a signaling throughout the body. So the new super system is definitely your gut. And not to go off on a tangent, your immune system and your nervous system, but the signaling is a critical element, signaling that something is sweet. So you want to eat foods that aren't just good for you, but really good for your gut. And another study had come out that artificial sweeteners and beverages associated with a higher risk of stroke and dementia. Now, to speak to that, those Dr. Peppers, Diet Cokes, Diet Pepsis, and the like really increase your incidence in stroke and dementia, depending on a study, between 2 and 3 times. So yes, we want to get to the weight gain. Yes, these early studies talked about increased weight gain, but the bottom line is it's artificial. Remember, if man makes it, I won't eat it. And so if it's made in a plant, no good. If it comes from a plant, let's talk. Aspartate may cause weight gain. So this study was done in mice. They had a high-fat diet, and with aspartame, they actually gained weight. The mice on the aspartame also had a higher blood sugar. They also had increase of what we call TNF-alpha, which is typically associated with metabolic syndrome. It blocked a beneficial, this is the aspartame, beneficial aspects of something called intestinal alkaline phosphatase. So aspartame really wasn't working in any kind of health-oriented way. Aspartame also caused increase in weight gain. Artificial sweeteners increase appetite. So the research in Cell Metabolism of 2016 spoke to the idea that research identified a new system in the brain that sensed and integrated sweetness and energy content of food. When sweetness versus energy is out of balance for a period of time, the brain had to recalibrate and increase total calories consumed. So essentially, we saw that artificial sweeteners increased appetite. Remember, these sweeteners are signaling, and they're signaling sweetness. Many of them are much sweeter than sugar. And that's a huge takeaway. If you have these artificial ones, they pose an issue. Now remember, when you go in your coffee shop or you go shopping, all these colored sweeteners, your Sweet and Low, your Equal, your Splenda, they're truly all, no matter what the studies show, they're truly all a no bueno. And we're going to get to what I recommend before the end of this live. Artificial sweeteners and their effect on the microbiome. So aspartate, sucralose, and saccharin. The consumption in this study in 2015 in gut microbes spoke to the idea that the consumption led to an increase in weight gain, led to impaired glucose tolerance, and increased incidence of type 2 diabetes. So once again, I don't think the literature is building towards a crescendo that says you should take any of these artificial sweeteners. And the big one, it just came out. It came out on August 4th, 2020. Here we go. Artificial sweeteners and weight gain. So they were studied 203 adults. They consumed at least, in this study, to get in the study, they had to consume at least one sugary beverage. There were three groups that were utilized. Group A had artificial sweeteners, Diet Cokes, Diet Pepsis, and the like. Group B had plain and sparkling water, and Group C was a controlled group. They had continued with the normal sugary beverages. So one was normal sugary beverage, another one was water, and another one was artificial sweetened beverages like diet sodas. After a year, the findings were interesting. There was no difference in weight gain. They were all the same in the idea of the water and the artificial sweetening groups. No change in cholesterol and triglycerides in the artificial and sweetening groups. Abdominal obesity. Significantly less weight gain when switched to a diet beverage or water. So in that, interesting. Finally, those who consume the sugary beverage gain an average of 10 pounds. So all the literature, I don't look at any one study. This is the most recent study. What does it say? It says, number one, without question, that water and a good organic coffee, which we're going to have a big announcement coming up really soon, is a great choice. Organic tea. The beverage, the artificial sweetened beverage, is not as good as the water, but it's better in some instances in reference just to weight gain, in reference to the sugary beverage. I believe the literature has also shown that the artificial sweeteners has also led to weight gain and deleterious effects on overall health. So for me, if you're going to drink something, drink water, drink organic coffee, drink organic tea. If you need an artificial sweetener, we've got some questions here, so I'm going to get to them. And here we've got a shout out. We've got a shout out. Let me hit you with a like. Would stevia function like an artificial sweetener? Just wanted to get to that. So stevia is, if you will, the girl with the curl. Now, what I mean by the girl with the curl is when it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. Stevia has also shown some really good positive effects on health outcomes, especially with Lyme disease. So for the most part, stevia is a 3/4 thumbs up. It still stimulates portions in your gut and portions in your brain of sweetness. Stevia is a natural leaf, so get it, of course, if you get it organic. What I prefer even to stevia is called monk fruit extract or lo hang dao. Monk fruit extract has shown no negative effects in any literature to date. Now, if you wanted to do something with some calories, I would use some organic molasses, a small amount, quite healthy, a little honey, a true honey, not a one that's taken from the cactus. So I would avoid that one. I would look more towards the molasses. Coconut sugar. Coconut sugar, very low calorie, very low on the glycemic index, a great choice. So again, I don't like anything that's artificial. I always suggest to avoid it. Stevia is a leaf, monk fruit also. So those are the ones that I lean towards that have no calories. If you're going to use calories, coconut sugar, molasses. So we're going to be on a couple of times this week. We've got a couple of big announcements at the end of the week. It's called a tease. I'm teasing you. Everybody come check in. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. Love doing these raw lives. So hope to hear from everybody. Please like, click. Oh, we got a question. Sorry about that. Like, click, share, comment. The shares are important. Get this information out. Jen, you just said AR artificial. I need to see the question. I'm happy to answer that. Please write that in. We're going to go. We got some patients to see. Everybody have a great, healthy day. Sweeteners linked to cancer. Oh, I can't. I gotta take that one. Yes, the sweeteners are linked to cancer. Sweet and low was linked to bladder cancer in rats. So correct. Now, I'll expand upon that. I'm going to hold off. I'm not going to leave. If you're damaging your gut and you're increasing your blood sugar issues, cancer cells lead on sugar. Nobody's saying that if you take stevia or if you take equal, it's going to lead you down a path. But the bottom line is that you want to keep your gut healthy. You don't want your insulin resistance or insulin secretion to get too high. Let's avoid the artificial sweeteners. Let's use stevia. Let's especially use monk fruit, or let's use something that's natural like an organic molasses and some coconut sugar. So once again, look forward to seeing everybody. Dr. Rob, always yours in health.